Hello everyone, so today I want to introduce the article Renewable Energy from the National Geographic to you. So this article basically just introduced the most of the well-known renewable energy to us and emphasizes why they are so important for our future. So we often hear about the wind, the sun, the earth as the types of the sources of the renewable energy. But how did they work? And how did they differ from the common fossil fuels that we hear about? And according to the article, these kind of the renewable energy sources are unique because they are naturally renew themselves, meaning that they won't run out like fossil fuels. They can just replenish themselves, and it means that it can build a sustainable futures to our development. So let's first start with the solar energy. We can capture the solar energy in two main ways according to the article, actively and passively. The active solar energy uses the technology like solar panels, which contains the photovoltaic cells, and these cells work on the principles of the photoelectric effect, where the sunlight knocks electrons to loose from atoms in the cell and generating the electricity. On the other hand, the passive solar energy involves designing the buildings to take advantage of the sunlight without any special equipment. For example, placing the windows to face the sun can help the heat to heat a house naturally. And this is based on the physics of the heat transfer, where the warm air rises and the cool air sinks, creating the natural circulations. However, while building solar energy as sustainable, it can be um, rather expensive to install the equipment and relies on sunny weather. So, so that means that so solar energy is not as stable. And next, we have the wind energy. So people have been harnessing wind for thousands of years, from ancient sailing ships to modern wind turbines. And these turbines actually convert the wind into electricity using the kinetic energy of moving air. So when the wind blows, it turns the blades of the turbine, and which are connected to a generator inside the tower. And the generator then will convert the mechanical energy into the electrical energy. And wind farms can be also found on the land and offshore where winds are stronger. However, using the wind energy is that it may be not always consistent as you thought. And also the wind turbines can also pose the risk to birds and bats. So it's not that environmental friendly to the animals. And now let's talk about the geothermal energy. So this kind of energy comes from the heat beneath the Earth's surface. The core of the Earth is extremely hot, and this heat moves toward the surface. We can access this heat using the geothermal heat pumps, and which transfer the warmth into our homes. And the physics here involves that the heat transfer through the conductions, where the heat moves from the hot ground to the cooler water in the pipes. And in some places, geothermal energy is used to create the steam that generates the electricity. But while it's a clean energy source, it only available in certain areas, and also it can require a lot of water in drier regions. So the limitation is exist. Another form of renewable energy is the biomass energy. So this comes from the organic materials like plants and waste. Biomass can be burned from heat or converted into the biofuels that power our vehicles. And this kind of energy stored in the biomass originates from the sun, as plants capture the solar energy photosynthesis. And when we burn biomass, we release that stored energy. And it's great because we can store it. But using land for biomass production can compete with the food crops, which is also a concern when we use this type of energy. And then we have the hydroelectric energy, produced by the falling water, and usually from dams. So dams actually create the reservoirs that control the river flow and generating the electricity as water passes through. And the potential energy of the water stored in the reservoir is converted into the kinetic energy as it flows down through the dam and turning the turbines that generated the electricity. And this method is rather reliable and relatively inexpensive, but somehow it can harm the local ecosystem and displace the communities. And lastly, there are also emerging sources like tidal and wave energy, according to the article. So tidal energy harnesses the gravitational pull of the moon and sun, which causes tides to rise and fall. This movement can be used to turn the turbines and generate electricity. Wave energy is to capture the energy of the surface waves on oceans and lakes to produce the power. So both of these methods is actually utilize the kinetic energy of moving water, which is very similar to the wind energy. So in conclusion, according to the article, the renewable energy offers us a path to a more sustainable future. By harnessing the power of the sun, wind, water, and organic materials, we can actually reduce our reliance on fossil fuels and help protect our planet. So, understanding the physics behind these energy sources can also help us to appreciate how they work and their potentials to shape our green future. And thank you for attention to listening my video presentations and hope you could feel inspired to learn more about the renewable energies.